What a delightful game this is. Seriously, this feels at home on the Switch too. Ruffy and the Riverside is a fun 3D platforming romp through a colorful world full of weird animals. Though it does feel at home on a Nintendo system, this is heavily inspired by the 3D platformers that rivaled Nintendo's own back on the PlayStation 1. Think of games like Croc or Spyro. This game gave me those same vibes, but with more modern controls and a better camera. You play as Ruffy, a goofy looking bear that I just can't get over how much I love their design. Seriously, look at this goober! Ruffy and his little bee friend embarked to save Riverside from an evil being who destroyed the wannabe Hollywood sign that somehow gave magical power and existence to this world. The story is silly, in case you didn't notice that my previous sentence almost sounded like I was babbling. I mean, I get it. I am getting old. Anyway, you control Ruffy and go through various biomes in this colorful world. You have the typical areas here, forest, beach, snow, but there are some fun areas that felt fresh, like a farm where folks race on wheels of hay, and a graveyard where there's a contest being held for the most beautifully decorated grave. And though the map kinda sucks in this game, it does feel familiar. But where this game greatly differs from any expectation I had was its gameplay. I fully expected Ruffy and the Riverside to be a standard 3D platformer where there is some light combat and a very heavy emphasis on improving your navigational skills within the game. Boy, was I wrong. This is more of a puzzle collectathon. Rather than focus on getting to certain areas by honing in on your jumping and dashing skills, you figure out environmental puzzles to proceed further. This game goes even further and spreads into the collectibles themselves. For example, there are these giant seed things where you have to not only figure out what shape you need to make by finding it somewhere nearby in the environment, but then you have to carefully plan what to copy and paste into that layout. This brings up the core gimmick of this game, swapping. Ruffy can copy things in the world, then slap them on other things. Let's say you copy the water in a river. You can then slap that onto a tree, turning it into a water tree that defies all physics. Or perhaps you need to get up a waterfall. Copy and throw some vines onto that waterfall and shazam! You have a way up. To add to this, there are collectibles in the game that allow you to fully change the design of different assets throughout the game to your creation. I definitely was an adult and made only the best fitting choices in my creations. This was super cool and I could only imagine what others might have created. In fact, I kind of wish there was a way to share what you made or import what others have created. Swapping is a really neat gimmick, but it has problems here. First, it's not entirely clear what can be copied and what can't. Most puzzles would end with me literally engaging the swap abilities, moving the camera around until something was highlighted to copy, then try to throw that ability on whatever else would be highlighted as I looked around. Some puzzles absolutely made sense and felt very clever, while most others just felt lame. This is a shame because this gimmick could have been so much more than how it was used. It's not bad, it's just very meh. And speaking of meh, I was mega bummed by the Switch 2 performance of this game. Anyway, the game runs decently for 75 to 80% of the time, but there are specific areas that make the game severely hitch. I think this has to do with loading, and the quote-unquote Switch 2 version is just a patch update for the Switch 1 game, but it was still a pain to deal with in a game like this. The other disappointing thing was that there were various soft locks that triggered throughout the game. For example, there's one that's much later in the game where it was supposed to trigger a cutscene and a character was supposed to move to a different spot. It just didn't happen. I was running around trying to trigger something or do anything and nothing would happen. I rebooted the game because it had autosaved right before and then the cutscene triggered like normal. This type of stuff happened throughout my playthrough, and though nothing was hard-locked or completely broken, it definitely brought my view of the game down. It's a good thing, though, that I absolutely love the art style. Though the environment is in full awkward early PS1 3D modeled glory, most of the characters in the game appear hand-drawn and run at a much lower frame rate, which oddly fits very well. I love this. Turn the camera around our snappy little protagonist. By the way, seriously, who snaps with their pointer and thumb? And you can see his hand-drawn goodness change to different angles. It works very well and largely didn't get in the way of the actual platforming or puzzle solving in the game. I would have liked to see puzzles utilize this more. You know, think of how games like Paper Mario would lean into the paper-thin humor. The visual style of this game really did some heavy lifting for me. Ruffy and the Riverside is a fun little platformer, even if it is a non-standard one. The gimmick is a great idea with middling execution, and the game doesn't perform great on the Switch 2, but the art style and general link to nostalgia from my earlier gaming years really helped me enjoy this one. I do recommend this game, though you need to know this isn't a typical 3D platformer to the level of Mario or Astrobot. I do hope to see another in this series in the future, and I can only hope they'll update it where it matters most. You know, to the way Ruffy snaps their fingers. Seriously, that is just so weird.